Good morning. This is Terry Lee from Global Halotherapy Solutions. It's about 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, October 4th. Welcome to How to Grow Your Business with Halotherapy. I think you should be seeing slides. Let me see if I can hit play, so you should be good to go. Okay, great. So let's get started so we don't run out of time. Again, my name is Terry Lee, and I'm just going to be doing the introductions. The webinar is going to be run by Lisa Semerly, so let me switch over to her and let her take it from here.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar, and as Terry said, my name is Lisa Semerly, and I'm the owner of a big medical spa here in East Lansing, Michigan that features halotherapy, going into my 4th year now. I was also a lead executive rep with Merck in respiratory and spent over a decade speaking with the respiratory specialty physicians. I was also a consultant to the Mid-Michigan Asthma Coalition and other societies around asthma. And then I was a trainer and disease expert for Merck as well. And then finally on the advisory committee for Global Halotherapy Solutions. So I always love talking about halotherapy because as my business continues to thrive and grow around halotherapy, I'm excited that right now it's such a booming industry, and I'm excited for other people to get into it and spread the word and help folks in the industry. When I was in pharma, there was just a lot of gaps that existed in the pharmaceuticals. Parents not wanting to put kids on high doses of steroids on a daily basis to gain control of asthma and allergies. Just lots of the side effects. So there's just lots of gaps. So when I decided to add halotherapy back 4 years ago, I was immediately drawn to it, although it wasn't as well known as it is today. So it's just a great time. So I like to start off with, why should you even pay attention to this webinar? Why halotherapy? Well, as I said,
just a quick thing, Lisa. For a few people just joined late, we'll be sending out a recording to this, so don't worry if you've missed anything. So go ahead.
Yeah. So it's really the perfect time. It's like the perfect time to be getting into this industry because it's still completely untapped market, yet it continues to grow and gain in popularity. As I said, 4 years ago, it took a lot of education and introducing it to the community through, various health fairs and all kinds of ways to try to get the word out. You still need to do that, but it's so much easier now because people are actually seeking it out and they're really just looking for alternatives to drugs. And we've got wellness centers opening up every day across the country. So it's just a great time. It's one of the fastest growing industries. There's that shift toward more natural remedies versus pharmaceuticals. No specific certification or licensing required. And your target audience is really 95%. It's really not a niche market. So it's great for respiratory to include asthma, allergies, COPD, cystic fibrosis, cold, flu, winter crud, bronchial infections, but then you've got the whole gamut of skin conditions. And 1 in 4 have skin conditions here in the United States. So psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, any kind of itchy, inflamed skin, it's going to help with that. For athletes, it's going to increase and strengthen their lung function as well as give you a better oxygen exchange. And then it's definitely going to help with that stress reduction and just allowing a person to breathe a little bit deeper. And then the exciting thing is that it's an accelerated return on investment without that added labor cost. So it's just a lot of reasons why halotherapy is it's a great time to get into it. So the industry experts, what have they been saying over the last several years? They've kind of got it up there in that top 5. And according to Spa Finder and other industry experts, that's the case. Well, that Global Wellness Trends report just came out, 2018. And guess what's number 5? The Clean Air Act. And it's all about salt therapy and halotherapy. So as our pollution continues to grow, people seeking out the alternatives to help, the halotherapy, dry salt therapy is number 5 on that list. So again, it's just supported and echoed by the industry experts. So what is halotherapy? Well,
wait, did you want to mention something about the new World Halotherapy Association?
Oh, Well, glad you reminded me, Terry. So the World Halotherapy Association is an association that just came into existence in the last 6 weeks to support the growth of the industry. And it is the only independent industry to support folks getting into halotherapy. And I can't even describe to you enough. And actually, remind me, Terry, if you guys want to write this down, WHA 15.
Yeah, I'll put a link to it in the email that people get afterwards.
Okay, but there's a code that's only good for 60 days that Dr. Hollenbeck gave to me, and I haven't. We don't give that across, to everybody, but she said for VIPs, and so I consider you guys all VIPs. So WHA 15 is going to give you 15% off at checkout for one of the membership levels. And again, Terry will send you the link. I just can't even describe to you. It's got a full business plan. It's got the collateral, customizable marketing pieces, treatment guidelines. I could go on. It's an amazing association. So, yeah. So what is halotherapy, also known as dry salt therapy? It's an all-natural approach to healing with a 75 to 95% efficacy rate. And I love to say that because this really is a modality backed by 50 years of science. So it's not just a foo-foo feel good. It actually has a lot of science, including being published in the New England Journal of Medicine. So it is definitely going to help gain control and help with all these different conditions. It draws out the moisture, mucus, and impurities. It kills anything in the airway. It helps with the inflammation, both in the airway and on the skin. I can tell you, this is a good time to tell you, too, that a lot of folks are opening up these salt caves and they're putting Himalayan salt on the floor and on the wall, and they're calling it halotherapy. So just to be clear, halotherapy is not halotherapy unless it's with a halo generator, and it's pure pharmaceutical grade salt that is being milled through that generator and dispersed into an enclosure or a room or cave. So just so we're clear on that, I do have folks that tell me that they're going to a halotherapy cave and if there's no generator, and I said, well, it's not halotherapy. Doesn't mean it can't be therapeutic and have some nice value to it, relaxation, but it's not true therapeutic halotherapy. It has to be milled down to like a 1 to 5 microns to get into those smallest airways to really be effective. And you do not want Himalayan salt with all of its additives, aluminum, and just the various things that are often in Himalayan salt to be breathed down into those distal airways. It's not good for the machine, and it's definitely not good for us. Himalayan salt, when it's ingested, is wonderful. It helps to balance pH. It tastes good. It flavors our food, and it has a lot of great benefits. It's just not great for breathing. And so again, just a little bit more about, and you can read this when you get your slide deck to a little more details, but basically what halotherapy is going to do is going to help to open up those bronchial tubes in the lungs. It's going to strengthen respiratory function. It's going to break up and clear the mucus, both in the lungs and in the upper airway. So I tell everybody when they come in, I kind of give them a quick, recap of what to expect. Breathing normally through just breathing normally, but every so often, nice deep breath through the nose, out through the mouth. That helps to access those nasal passages that are really tough to treat topically. And what it's going to do is it's going to break up that mucus and start to drain. So I don't overpromise, but I tell folks that even on the first 20-minute session or 45 if you're in a cave or room, you can definitely start to feel the benefits. Not always, and not with all folks. It's going to depend on what your condition is. But if somebody's got a lot of congestion in the upper airway, they'll start to feel that drain post-treatment. And as far as the skin goes, well, it naturally triggers skin's microcirculation and membrane activity. It's going to enhance skin's protective and reparative properties. It's going to kill anything on the skin, and it's going to help with the inflammation of the skin. And then the next slide is on athletes. And I'll let Terry speak to this because he does work with a lot of athletes at his facility in Massachusetts.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, last week I climbed Mount Rainier and was training for about 9 months. And, used halotherapy a lot for two reasons that I like it and that athletes in general like it, especially CrossFit and other folks that are being a little bit more intensive with their exercise. So number one is just what athletes would call VO2 max, which really just means the ability to use more oxygen, and it will help with that because it clears out your lungs and reduces any particulate matter or anything else that might be in there that might be preventing you from absorbing oxygen. The second great thing about it for athletes as well as anyone is that when you're doing intense exercise, you tend to compromise your immune system somewhat. And the last thing someone training for an event wants to do is get sick. So whenever I would start to get kind of a scratchy throat or I feel a little bit lethargic, I can jump into the salt cabin and kind of usually knock that out and not get sick. So those are the two ways that I've seen it used for athletes, and this is a great way to cross pollinate in your communities, which we'll talk a little bit later in marketing for CrossFit gyms and other fitness facilities and MMA gyms and all those kind of things are great places to market your services.
And so going into stress reduction, when you can really get somebody that's calm and centered and relaxed, they're going to breathe deeper, they're going to breathe better, there's going to be less constriction and really allow for the healing. And as Terry mentioned, it's a great immune boost if you're starting to feel a little run down, and we're heading into that season where there's going to be lots of folks that have the just feeling run down and cold flu season, and it's going to help cleanse the respiratory tract. So that winter crud, that cough that lingers, you're heading into, I would say we see a spike in our business during like the January, February timeframe. But the key really, when the person walks through your door the very first time, you want that experience to start immediately, where you're offering them the immune boost infused teas, and there's aromatherapy, and maybe you have them change into a robe. They want to just feel, you want to really help them get there. And then the second component to really making sure they understand everything is the education piece. So don't let them leave without a brochure that's going to give them sort of a recap of the why and the benefits of halotherapy so they really understand it. Okay, why is halotherapy becoming so popular? Well, I mean, respiratory illness is a chronic and growing epidemic. I had a gal the other day ask me, does this cure those problems? And I said, no, there really is no cure for some of these chronic conditions. I mean, you hear about children sometimes outgrowing asthma, and to some extent that can be true. But as long as somebody has the condition, sustained use over time is really what they need. So that's, it's for folks, again, looking for that all-natural treatment to limit and minimize the pharmaceuticals. But they really do need to use it regularly. And I always tell folks 2 to 3 times the first week to 10 days to saturate the airway. And then they can back off and find what maintenance looks like for them. And again, we have a slide that talks a little bit about, how often do I need to come in? Because you'll get that question a lot. And then, as I said, that 1 in 4 Americans have some form of skin condition. And as Terry mentioned, more and more elite athletes looking for an edge. So that's really why it's becoming so popular.
Yeah, I would challenge you all to find anyone that's not challenged by either stress or polluted air. Right? That's going to be, maybe a guru in an Indian mountain. That's about it, right?
So the anecdotal stories and the testimony that I see really on a daily basis is what keeps me motivated and inspired. And I'll just mention a couple of them. So just recently, over the summer, I had a gal, Patty, getting married. She came to me with little white gloves on her hands and showed me that her hands were covered in eczema and said, I heard you do halotherapy here. I'm getting married in 2 weeks and none of the medicine is working. And I thought I would try this because I heard it worked. And I was like, absolutely. So she came in and was doing double sessions. You do need a higher concentration to affect skin. She was doing double sessions on the highest setting. But 2 weeks later, her hands were almost completely cleared up. So she was absolutely thrilled. And then when I saw her, a month or so later, she showed me her hands. She still comes in for maintenance, and they still look fantastic. So it was just a great success story. And then Marvin was one of the very first clients that I had when I opened. It was an allergist. I had tried everything with this little boy, covered in eczema, sent him over to the spa. We started doing treatments, 20-minute sessions in what I called the superhero booth. He was only, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years old. And covered in eczema, didn't want to take a bath, was miserable. And after 2 to 3 sessions, by, I would say 3 to 4 weeks in, his skin was, again, not completely clear, but significantly better. His quality of life improved. He was taking baths, and he was happy. Again, staying out in front of your bad season. So Christine comes in every year. She gets terrible sinus infections, and she started using halotherapy prior to that January time when it kicks in. And the last 2 years hasn't had any sinus infection, and we anticipate the same thing heading into this year's season. So halotherapy paired with other treatment modalities, it really makes a lot of sense. We're seeing yoga studios across the country opening up and adding halotherapy because they're already trying to relax and get more centered and breathe deeper. So when you're adding the halotherapy, it just makes a lot of sense. And now you're getting, more for your bang for your buck in terms of, the yoga and all of its benefits, and now adding that halotherapy and also with meditation or Reiki, massage. And what you'll find is that some of your best supporters and your best referral base will come from a lot of those holistic alternative healers. They'll send people to you all the time. So I have a letter that I send to folks that are in that field to introduce them to halotherapy. I invite them to come try it. I give them brochures, and I say, tell all your customers and guests about it. And they send them in all the time. So equipment versus a cave or room. People have a vision of opening up this beautiful exotic cave, packing in 10 people a session. They're beautiful, they're relaxing, and they really are. But in the real world where we are today, it sometimes there's some impracticality of it all that doesn't always play out. So if you're in a piece of equipment, your sessions are 20 minutes. People can get in and out during a lunch hour, before or after work. That's also going to keep the cost down. So I roughly about $1 a minute. Some markets can support maybe $25 or even $30 for that 20-minute session. But the bottom line is, if they're paying $45 or $50 per session, it's going to be cost prohibitive for them to come in as often as they need to feel better. And if they're not feeling better, they're not telling 10 of their friends. So that's important. The other thing is people don't think about is oftentimes, and I only know this now having done it for 4 years, they just don't want to be with other people unless it's a friend or a family member. People who want to remove clothing so they can expose their skin to the salt therapy, they're going to lie there scantily clad in a room full of other people comfortably. So it's not that it doesn't have value, because it does. It just be mindful of understanding the whole big picture before you really launch into your business model and think through what you want to do. The other thing is the ability to customize the treatment in a piece of equipment. So again, we have Patty, who needed high concentration. And then you have other folks that have a more compromised respiratory condition, and they simply can't start off that high. You have to introduce the salt to them at a much slower pace because they have a very twitchy airway. It's damaged. And if too high a concentration could potentially cause an exacerbation. So it's the one-size-fits-all approach in a cave that again, is a little bit of a barrier. So now if you're doing that with yoga or other modalities, again, that makes sense. But just think it through before you as I said, when you get into your business model. So here's some pictures of some of our equipment. The medium Halo Boost Pro is very popular. It allows for you to go in with a friend or family member, or you can still do an individual treatment because you're running it the same way, 20 minutes. The other thing is 20-minute sessions, you can get a lot of folks in during the course of a day with just a 20-minute session, and then it vents for 5 to 10 minutes after. There's minimal maintenance and cleaning with our equipment. Our generators are literally commercial grade, state of the art, and the only UL certified Halo generator on the market today. We'll talk about this, but I can't hold it any longer. We're now offering a lifetime warranty on our generators because they're that effective and that reliable. So I was like, really? We're going to do that? And he's like, Lisa, how long have you had your generator? I said, 4 years. He goes, how many times has it broken down? I said, it's never broken down. It sounds the same today as it did when I bought it 4 years ago. So they're just reliable pieces of equipment. The bed is fantastic. It's great for lying in there and getting that full luxurious experience. If you're treating skin, especially, you can go in, remove your clothing, and I have folks lie right on that Himalayan salt on a towel. It's the pharmaceutical salt that's actually doing the work, but lying in on that heated Himalayan salt just feels good. The cabins are becoming really much more popular because as folks start to price out, build out for a cave or a room and all of what's required, monitoring the HVAC and humidity levels and some of the expense that's involved, they start looking more towards those cabins. And I'll tell you what, that large cabin allows you to have two loungers in there, so folks can lie down. And again, you're running off of a 110 outlet. You can still keep your sessions to 20 minutes because it's a small enough confined enclosure. So you're still getting all those benefits, but your space is a little bigger. If you wanted to have more folks, you could put up to 5 people in a chair in the larger size cabin. So just kind of consider and take it all in. Consider it all. And length and cost of treatment, as I said, when you've seen one asthmatic, you've seen one asthmatic. Everyone is really different. So what I tell folks in the treatment guidelines support is that you want to have them come in 2 or 3 times that first week, maybe 10 days, to really saturate the airway, and then just start to kind of back down a little bit to find out what maintenance looks like for them, and that'll be different. And then I'll let Terry take over here and talk about some of the ways of generating new customers.
Thanks. So, the equipment's great, and we've talked about the lifetime warranty and the UL certification, but putting the best halo generator in your business in the world, it doesn't necessarily make you any money unless you generate new customers. So as part of what Global Halotherapy does with its clients is we really kind of partner with you to be successful. And that's everything from what you can do before you launch and even get your equipment to start building demand, to how you can drive demand on a daily basis, to how you can keep people coming back again and again. So we have a program, and we have a booklet that we send out along with your purchase that will really help you start to drive business. To a large extent, this can be driven by what kind of business you have and where you are. So it's all pretty much specialized on what you're trying to accomplish. And how do you make money with halotherapy? Obviously, we all want to help people, but at the end of the day, unless we're independently wealthy, we'd like to at least make some money back on it. So I would recommend that you do the math for your own business, but here's an example. So depending on what you want to do, anything from a halo generator alone up to a very large cabin, it's about somewhere between $6,000 and $20,000 one-time upfront expense. The $6,000 for the halo generator does not include whatever customization you'd want to do for a room, which we talked about earlier. Again, depending on how busy you are, your ongoing salt cost for that pure pharmaceutical grade salt is probably $100 a year or $200. We talked about $1 per hour, so a half hour at $35 or $30. In my cabin here on Cape Cod, we're about $35 for a half hour, so that's why I use it. That's a 20-minute session, 25-minute session with about 5 minutes to get your clothes on, clothes off, or jacket here. Most of the time we're wearing jackets and have umbrellas and things like that, so give them a few minutes to do that. I also assume that I'm going to have a day off, and so that's only 6 days a week, and obviously we're open for 8 hours. You might be open more, but if you do half-hour sessions for 8 hours, that's about 96 treatments in 6 days. So let's just assume that only half of those are going to get filled up. Again, you really need to come up with your own numbers. But if you fill it up halfway for 6 days, you're making about $1,680 per week, or about $87,000 per year. So if you assume you spent about $20,000 setting the whole thing up, you can make as much as $60,000 in your first year. And you typically don't have to add any people or anything to your business. The electricity is minimal. So really, it's mostly profit after you pay for the machine. We also have some ways to to finance the machine. So we can talk to you about how you can potentially defer some payments and things like that to make it work for your business. And I talked a little bit about this on how to grow your business. This is the customer success playbook. We'll send this out to you when you become a client. Happy to talk to you about how we can help you. We also have a private Facebook group for all of our customers who are constantly just kind of sharing tips and tricks on how to grow their business and things like that. We also have a 24/7 service department. The Facebook group is really not meant for servicing your machine or for help with your machine. So we have a service at Halotherapy and an 800 number for the service side of it. And then ensuring your customers come back. So no matter how many people you get in the door, whether they're customers that exist already with your business or if they're new customers you brought in the door, you really need to keep them going. So we're gonna talk about with you things like memberships, monthly memberships, annual memberships, referral programs, incentives to stay a customer, education, as Lisa said. So a lot of different ways that we can work with you to help you make sure all those hard-earned customers come back. Finally, what I would recommend, if you're out there seriously looking at getting into this business, then you're looking at different ways to do it. We thank you for considering Global Halotherapy and joining us today. But here's some really key things to look at. So if you're going to get insurance or if you have a landlord where your business is, they're going to want to know that you have a certified product by Underwriters Laboratories, which essentially means it's considered to be safe. And it's not going to start a fire or blow fuses or create problems for the building you're in. We are the only product today that is UL certified in this space. So that's an important thing to consider. Certainly speak to your landlord, speak to your insurance company, make sure that if you do need that, make sure that you have that. Also, customizable salinity concentration. We talked about that. Different people have different requirements. So make sure that you can customize easily the salinity or the amount of salt that's in the air. Make sure that that particle size is small enough to be effective. Make sure it's quiet because most of the time you're in a wellness center or a spa, and the last thing you don't want, the last thing you need is something that's very, very noisy inside. Make sure that the group is affiliated with someone like Lisa and others because they're the experts. They're the ones that are going to help you understand how to add this to your business as opposed to just saying, here's salt therapy. We talked about 24/7 support. We talked about our new lifetime warranty. And I guess some of our competitors actually ship with a repair kit. We have a lifetime warranty. So if something goes wrong with your mill or your fan or your feeder or whatever, we'll get on the phone with you and we'll help you fix it if it can be fixed locally, or we'll replace it. So you don't really need to worry about the repair kit. Finally, we have a couple of other things that we're offering here in the last minute. Kasara is something that Global Halotherapy provides exclusively. It's essentially a group of pre-recorded guided meditations that you can provide in your facility. All of our equipment ships with speakers and Bluetooth, so you can just connect and play these over the speakers if people want to meditate. Or you can allow them to meditate on their own, or they can connect via Bluetooth with their own equipment, their own cell phone, and play their own music. And again, we talked kind of a little bit about the Halotherapy Providers Group. So if you have any questions about that, we can talk about it. And once you become a customer, you get invited. I did have a quick question. How do you determine what concentration for who? That's a complicated question. So I would recommend that you follow up with Lisa Semerly, who knows a lot more about that than I do. And we'll be sending out an email with her connectivity, her email address and phone number. Actually, her email address is right there. So the person that asked that question, that's probably more than a 2-second answer. So let's get you on the phone with Lisa and we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's general terms around that, so I can definitely help you with those questions. But I don't know, Terry, this is a good time to just let this group also know that we just came off of iSpa, the International Spa Convention. We were offering up to $2,000 off of our big equipment and up to $500 off of our Halo generators. So in a follow-up email, I'll remind you of that, but you can take advantage of that through the month of October. And then,
Great.
as Terry mentioned, there's opportunity for, to pay over time.
Great. So, yep, you'll all receive an email. You'll all receive probably a link to the recording. So any questions, Terry at halotherapysolutions.com or Lisa at halotherapysolutions.com. And otherwise, have a great day. And thank you very much,
Have
Lisa.
a great day. Thank you.